Good evening, I am Nerd as the Human, and this is my tier list for the Mercenary units in Rome Total War's Barbarian Invasion. As ever, this list is my own opinion and is as such completely correct as far as I'm concerned. Nonetheless, do feel free to discuss in the comments section if you have any pertinent points. I would love to hear them. As for my criteria, I'm not especially interested in the cost of units, but I will consider things like the scarcity of a unit type. But on the whole, I will simply explain the criteria as I go along. Feel free to use the chapters at the bottom to skip forward to any particular tier of your choosing, but with all that said, let's head straight on in. We begin in D tier, where bottom of the pack are the Moorish Raiders. Their stats may look pretty decent, and they do compare very closely to the other light cavalry mercs, but in my experience these guys are out instantly every single time, even with a desert bonus. Their combination of a low morale, lack of training and ill discipline simply lead them to rout having achieved nothing of value. Like any cavalry, they can be useful to keep archers dancing or to mop up enemy routers though, so there is some utility. Maybe I'm just burnt by my Berber campaign, but I wouldn't rely on them to actually do anything of note. To the bottom they go. Into C tier we find the Bucelari. Now their missile damage of 7 is decent, especially considering that it's armour piercing. In a game with a lot more armour than in Rome's base game, this makes their missile pretty potent. The morale is a lowly 5 and they are woeful if caught in hand-to-hand combat, but that's okay if their role is to simply shoot from a protected position. Sadly though, on bridge battles they often lack the range to even shoot across the river, which is pretty embarrassing. The range of 85 is not much more than a javelin and is half the range of the Archer Mercenary we'll get to later. Still, they are a nice to have support unit and can be brutal from the walls of a city in particular. There are only 2 missile units that are footmen, and so they have their uses despite their many drawbacks. Next are the Vandal Lancer Mercs, and these have the same low morale, lack of training and ill discipline as the Moorish lads, but their charge bonus of 10 at least means that they can deliver an effective charge before they melt and swiftly run away. This type of unit is always a nice idea, but one and done units can be a little frustrating, and these lads do sadly fall into that category. Next up though are 2 that are basically superior versions of the Moorish Raiders and pretty much the same as each other, the Equite Vetinari and the Mercenary Foederati Cav. The Vetinari have more training and a little more defense, the Foederati have a snow bonus and the superior stamina. They can both manage a few charges before they crumble and do a reasonable job of being like cavalry. Nothing exceptional, but a reliable choice. I will slide the Foederati slightly higher for their stamina. I really appreciate that in cavalry. The last of these light cavalry are the Camel Raiders. They are another slight variation on a theme, and naturally a little slower than the horses, but they can still achieve most of the same roles. And given their bonus of scaring horses, I like to use them as a reserve unit to throw into their general. That trait certainly gives them a slight edge in my book. Top of C tier though are the Mercenary Foederati Infantry. These are solid early game anti-cav. They have typical Barbarian Invasion high defense and can be expected to manage against enemy cavalry like the mercenaries that we just discussed, but don't pin too much hope on them. They rarely can take out a general, for example. Their morale of 5 is poor, which really detracts from their core job of holding the line, but in a pinch, if you need a bit of anti-cav or just an extra couple of infantry, they will do. Bottom of B tier are the Mercenary Vetinari. Yes, they are second from bottom of my infantry list. Their high defense stats means they have a solid foundation and their peeler missiles are always effective if you want to use these lads as a second line. Their versatility is their strength and as such, there is always a space in the army for a unit of these lads. However, their morale of 5 is very poor indeed. Infantry simply can't get near A tier with morale that low. Their armour and shield usually ensures that they don't die too quickly to rout, but they are not especially disciplined either, so a lot of a general will see these guys give up swiftly if you don't take care. This unit is a shadow of the old Roman legions, but it is still reasonably effective if you manage the morale problem. They're just not quite as good as you may be conditioned to think. They can be useful to bait arrow fire onto your armoured units, however if the enemy lacks missiles then I'd much rather have a front line of Gallo Glasses or Golden Band, who conveniently are the next units we'll cover. These 2 are very similar units that do fulfill the same role in an army for hard hitting attack. Their warcry makes their attack powers supreme, especially in woods and snow. Sadly, neither have armour piercing, even though you could be forgiven for thinking that the Golden Band might do with the axes they have in the picture, but they actually use swords. As effective as these units can be, they lack shields and so are very vulnerable to missiles, and in a meta with a lot of horse archers, this can be catastrophic. Golden Band get a lot of their defense through their defense skill, where the Galliglasses are more armoured, but it's actually only 2 more, which might surprise you. The Golden Band must have some very heavily armoured trousers. Both units are nice to have, but if you have to choose between the two, then I prefer the Golden Band simply because of their increased stamina and a huge 13 morale. That's 4 better than the Galliglasses' decent morale of 9. Protect them from missiles, and they are both excellent offensive choices. The next 2 choices are very similar, the Hippo Cav and the Alani Horse Archers. And these are fast-moving Archer Cav who have competent defences. Their stats actually look almost identical, but the Alanis have 1 more defence, 2 more attack. They do have superior stamina and actually have more arrows at 40 rather than 27. Now, the Hippos though do have 1 better morale. Horse Archers though are always incredibly useful units, and these 2 are only really kept out of A tier by a superior unit in their class. Still, the Alani is clearly the slightly stronger of the 2, and so they will be topping B tier. We begin A tier with the Sarmatian Mercenaries. These are the same as the Western Roman unit, chunky defense, good morale and a decent attack. They're the kind of cavalry that will repeatedly charge to create breaks without melting themselves at the first effort. As such, they are a good choice for any army, but they are outclassed by a couple others that do the same job, and so it is the bottom of A tier for them. Next, onto the final infantry unit, the Bosphorus Mercs. I really like this unit. They have very solid defences, good stamina and a good morale of 9. Add to that their discipline, their highly trained nature, and you can simply rely on them to hold the line and take care of the myriad of cavalry in this campaign. I wanted to place them higher, but they do suffer from a lack of abilities. If they had Shield Wall or Schiltrum, I would consider placing them into S tier. Those abilities would solidify the unit's use as anti-cav king among mercs. As it is though, they still have a clear role and they do it very, very well. Next are the Armoured Camels. Now these chaps are a marvellous addition to any army, particularly when used to help rout other generals. Whilst they lack the speed of horses, they make an effective unit to screen and guard your main line from enemy cavalry, helping to rout horses with their smell. Now their chunky protection makes them a tough unit to kill, and their charge is still surprisingly powerful. They're a big upgrade on the earlier camels, and these are mercs that I always hire, and that is a highly positive sign indeed. A solid A tier choice. Next up are the Vandal Raider Mercenaries, who are simply an excellent archer unit. 9 missile attack is great, and their range of 160 is huge. Their morale is a bit low at 5, but they are not intended to get into melee anyway, so it's not really a massive issue. But they do actually have decent bit of armour, which might just help them win out against other archers, especially considering their range advantage. Now, they are generally better than basically all of the game's other foot archers. I'd probably only choose the Lombards over them. A simple but excellent unit. The Sarmatian Cav fell where they did on the list because of these lads, the Alani Nobles. These are supreme heavy cavalry and will defeat any of the aforementioned melee cav with ease. Most of the mercenaries have fairly low morale, but these lads have an exceptional 13. That's what you can expect from a general. Now add into that good stamina, very strong stats, and you have an excellent heavy cav, primed for screening, aggressive charges, or sniping enemy cav. They are fantastic. It only really stays out of S tier because of a stronger variant, although it's not actually top of A tier. Ahead of them are the Mercenary Sarmatian Horse Archers. Now these are the best of the Horse Archers and are basically upgraded versions of the Alanis. These guys come with a bolstered defense but still retain the all-important fast moving and very good stamina. Horse Archers are so potent and incredibly tough to counter. They only really get kept out of S tier themselves by a shockingly low 5 morale. Now that shouldn't matter too much as a ranged unit, especially one with the defences to avoid quick losses, but it is still a stark negative to an otherwise excellent unit. At the very top of A tier though is the Mercenary Ballista. There is nothing fancy to this unit, it just does exactly what it says on the tin. Now you might be thinking that putting this so high is crazy, however I would argue that scarcity does add value, and the ability to hire artillery to knock down a gate for a quick city sacking is very, very helpful indeed. I almost never use ballistas usually, but it is striking that when given the opportunity, I almost always pounce at the chance to hire them for a quick attack. Rome's base game had no such mercenary artillery unit, and this was a welcome addition. A hugely welcome addition, frankly. For their practicality and scarcity, it is the top of A tier for the humble ballista. Before we enter S tier, I should discuss a few honourable mentions. Now you may or may not be aware that there is actually a Mercenary Onager in the files, along with 5 other units that are available to the rebels in custom battle, but aren't available in the campaign, and there will be a video coming up for that very shortly. But the Mercenary Kerns and Herdsmen, for example, they're a little bit meh. I don't really mind missing out on them, but Warhounds, Sugdian Warriors, Hounds of Kulan as mercenaries, oh, these could have been very fun in a campaign. Now, none of these are actually new units, they're simply unused mercenaries. So do let me know in the comments where you'd put these 6 units if they were recruitable mercenaries, as presumably they were originally designed. I reckon it could shake things up a fair bit. On to S tier, where we have the Elephants. Now, like ballistas, they can be used to knock your way into smaller towns quickly, but they are also incredibly fun and effective. I mean, they're elephants. Who can argue with the brutal effectiveness of elephants? In a game where there is much more armour, it certainly helps to have a massive bulldozer crushing the enemy morale. Throw in some archers on top for good measure, and we have a unit that few factions have an effective counter to. This is an easy pick for S tier if ever there was one. Top of the tree though are the one and only Growl Knights. 12 attack with 7 charge bonus makes these lads a brutal offensive proposition. Just watch them demolish the enemy infantry with a charge. And they have 13 attack on their swords as an alternative weapon as well, by the way. It's not quite the Cataphract mace, but it is nice to have. Of course, they also have 28 defense, and that is really what sets them above the Alani nobles. They just do the same job a little bit better. Now, like a Cataphract, these guys take a lot of killing to go down, with excellent morale, good stamina, and a bonus in their snow. Their only real drawback is their impetuous nature. This is the kind of unit that I would describe as historically inspired rather than historically accurate, but the game is better for it. This unit is very fun and very, very effective. A worthy winner to top the pile. There we have it then, another peerless and unarguable tier list. Do feel free to politely debate and discuss in the comment section below. I'd also be interested in hearing what other kinds of mercenary units you think the game should have created to fill out the selection a little more. And do let me know what other tier lists you'd be interested in seeing me cover in the future. And if you enjoyed this video, then do please give me a like, subscribe to the channel, and consider becoming a member here or on Patreon. It really does make a huge difference and is very, very much appreciated. For now though, I will leave you. Thank you for joining me on this tier list for the mercenary units of Rome Total War's Barbarian Invasion. I'm Tenez the Human, and I hope you'll rejoin me very, very soon. Thank you, and tally ho. Send in the camels, those shiny, smelly camels. Oh, the anarchy loosed upon the world, apart from over here where we're kind of routed. Stupidity got us into this mess. Stupidity will get us out of it, damn it. We will have a last stand at some point. But it's not today!